we hear you.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see you all. I will be there in person next month. But I'm really excited to, get back on track with everything. I know we didn't have a December meeting, so I am looking at numbers starting from November, or at least mid-November after the last meeting we had. Just looking at trends and seeing what picked up, one of the things I did notice was there was some higher number of burglaries. Upon breaking them down, I saw a total of 11 burglaries. 4 of them were garage break-ins, 2 where vehicles were broken into inside a garage, 6 where units were actually entered. The majority of these were either from a back door or from a window that was smashed and then they entered the unit. And then there was 1 that was a construction site. And then we had 5 commercial burglaries. Of the commercial burglaries, so these are your restaurant shops, 3 of them were on Main Street, 1 on Oceanfront Walk, and 1 on Pier. And another thing that we tend to see often in the Ocean Park area, especially closer to beaches, are vehicle break-ins. So that was something I wanted to take a look at. We had 7 in about a 2-month period, 1 catalytic converter theft. But we did have 5 stolen plates that have been reported in that time frame. That may not seem super high in general, but I will say it's not something I'm necessarily seeing as often in this area, or really as much in the city. We do see them, but I do feel that it's a little higher than what I would have expected. And just something to remember when you have an incident of this manner, or if you have a friend or neighbor who's had their place stolen, make sure that's reported immediately, as these are often then used for crimes. So we want to make sure that they know that this has been stolen, and who the plates actually belong to. And then, aside from that, there were a couple of robberies, and the robberies were aimed towards major chains or major stores. And what turns it into a robbery was basically pushing off security upon trying to shoplift. So those are the major things that popped out of me. I saw a couple of assaults. A lot of them were either neighbors or family members known to each other. I didn't see anything that was an isolated incident that stood out. And then a couple of package thefts. Now these, we did see a bit of a spike. That is usually on trend for the holiday season, unfortunately. So I saw with the just thefts in general, I saw 16 of those, and about a little over half of those were package thefts or mail thefts or some nature. So we're hoping that now that the holidays are over, we're not seeing as many deliveries happening, that we're going to see that trend down. So I'll keep an eye on that for the next month. But that's all on my end. And before we take any questions, I'll let Officer Navarro, if he has anything to add.
The only thing I'm going to add is kind of a bittersweet meeting for me. After 6 years as your NRO, I've been reassigned to patrol. It's been absolutely a pleasure always working with OPA and the members. I was with you guys during COVID when we were having the weekly meetings, and you guys have always really been interested in our input, and the dialogue has always been great. So thank you for always being very civil and considerate to me. My replacement is going to be he's a senior officer, Brandon Avila. So he should be starting next week. I think he'll be fantastic. He's got a lot of experience and a lot to bring into the assignment. So again, it was a pleasure. Happy New Year to everyone. I should see people out in the field, and hopefully in that time I may do some investigations work or look towards promoting. But again, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys out in the field. And thank you. Thank you. Any questions for us?
Any questions for officers on the line? Tony, do you have a question?
Yeah. A few weeks ago, we had a transient woman who was sleeping. I live up on Raymond. We live on Raymond, my wife and I. And it's just a seven unit building, one, not a courtyard, but it's like one of those just got stacked, 2-story. And a woman was sleeping in front of one of the units. And I called the non-emergency number just to see if someone could help communicate with her. And officers came, Officer Kabayoshi, Kevin Kobayashi, excuse me.
my gosh.
Kobayashi.
And we had this conversation because I was going to relay to the board here at OPA and wanted to talk with you all here about maybe upgrading, or I don't know that that's the right word, but like the homeless services in our neighborhood for outreach. And what they did with this woman was they sent her to the Salvation Army on 4th Street, which she did not know about. And as far as they know, she was on her way there for services. And so they gave me this card, which has information on it of where people can go to. So I was just wanting to know about talking with the board members and SMPD about more services and communicating with the homeless liaison officers about what to do about the doing more services for homeless, Main Street, the neighborhoods around.
So
Well,
those services are available citywide. Officer Kobayashi is actually heading the homeless liaison team right now. It's usually Sergeant Hyen, and he's been out. I think he actually comes back this week. So Kobayashi is the one that's been in charge of the team. They have access to Salvation Army, DMH. They usually have a DMH individual who goes out with them, Department of Mental Health. And they also have the therapeutic transport van. So these have come into play, I want to say in the last year or so. DMH has always been around, but Salvation Army and the transportation van, the therapeutic transportation van have been newer services that we have been able to have access to. And they have come as a huge help to us and to the community. So oftentimes, when we've had issues where we may have an individual who's kind of resistant to assistance or may not want to go in a certain direction or isn't quite in need of mental health services, but might benefit from other services, now we're able to have additional resources available. So that's something that the department can offer. But calling dispatch will still allow you to have those services. So exactly how you did it, where you called dispatch and they were sent out, they have access to that information. Now, Salvation Army isn't police, so they're not 24/7, so they may not always have someone available. But what I've seen them do in the past is if they know that this person hangs out at a particular location or they know that they may be in need, they will then come and reach out to them. I had one particular person that they reached out to for about like 2 months straight. They visit them weekly until the person finally accepted some sort of services. So it's definitely a long-term thing, but it's been really great. So I'm really happy to hear that you're able to see that happen then.
Yeah, is there a way to have someone, whether it's Officer Kobayashi or someone else, come to one of our meetings to discuss in further, just beginning of the meeting about these services, and so we know of where to communicate with people, maybe, because we can't always call, maybe if they're not available, we can also to help people as well.
absolutely. So let me just add some information. So I think you can all treat it as a kind of a twofold call if you can. You can start off with, let's assume you have a trespasser, just like you did, you called dispatch. And it could be a general police officer who's on patrol who will go out there. The Kobayashi, he's part of a task force. It's called the HELP Team, Homeless Liaison Program. So that task force is probably one of the most important task forces that I recommend. I'm going to put out their number and maybe Halima can add it to the chat. It's a 310-458-8953. So that's their direct number. And the reason I say twofold, you call dispatch, as soon as you hang up, you'll call the help team and you'll say, hey, I keep seeing the same person. Is there something you could do long-term? The great thing about the help team is they balance enforcement with outreach. I'm not sure where this homeless person was on your property. They could have been on your private property or a little bit on the cusp, maybe on public property. So sometimes they got to take off their police officer hat and put on their outreach hat. And they do that. So that's how they connected that person to the shelter. Like Halima says, they also, a lot of times they have a clinician, mental health clinician, that's got a ton of resources available to them that will offer those services to them. In addition to that, they're connected to the transport van that Halima was mentioning. Now, they tend to work really early morning hours. They start as early like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time, they're done by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But you can always call dispatch and you can say, hey, this person seems to have a mental health issue. So I'd love the transport van to go out there and check on them. So that's another option. That's separate from the help team. Something that you can ask for. The other option is sometimes people say this person has a mental health issue. I don't want police involved at all. I want somebody that's maybe a social worker. That option is available for you as well. If you go online, it's called LA Hop. You Google it. It'll give you an opportunity to punch in the address, what the person looks like and what they're doing. And a social worker, not anybody law enforcement related, will come out and check on the person. So that's 3 different layers of help that you can bring this person. And again, it's that balance of enforcement and outreach that should be able to resolve it. Now, can we have the help team come and present at your meeting? Absolutely. And I'm sure Halima will be in contact with them. And next meeting, depending on Sean's agenda, we can have them speak. And they're fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll make a note to connect you with Halima. Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do, officers. And I was wondering, is the city thinking about putting more cameras into commercial areas? I mean, obviously in New York City, not too long ago, they proved very helpful. But if you've had them, let's say at Lincoln and Pico or at questionable intersections or on Main Street where you're having license plates stolen, would it be of benefit? And are you considering it?
And absolutely, we have there's a real-time crime center that we got a grant for. There has been a delay in getting it all set up, but that's their big thing. They're going to put cameras citywide at all the important spots based on statistics. Again, that's the reason why the more calls to us, the more idea of where we should be putting cameras. But yeah, we're looking to put lots of cameras out there. In addition, we're going to have a center where people are there monitoring the cameras, and then we can get emergency services out there. So that's definitely in the works.
Is that a new position?
I don't know if it's a new hired position or someone that they're going to pull, but yeah, it's going to be people that are going to be pulled into that center to monitor those cameras. I know there's 2 sergeants working on just the implementation of the center, of picking the cameras, funding the cameras, and finding where at the station we're going to put all this together. That's kind of been what's the delay has been. We were hoping to start it at the beginning of this calendar year. It's not going to happen, but they're definitely pushing to do that as soon as possible. I'm not sure if Halima has any more information on that real-time crime center.
Nope. Don't know much.
All right, officers, thank you for making time tonight and giving us the update. And you will be missed on these calls, Officer Navarro, but hope we get to see plenty of you around the neighborhood.
Absolutely. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Bye.
Great. Next on the agenda is we have a newly minted council person here to greet us and talk about her priorities and things for the council for the year and see if there's any questions. So without further ado, I want to introduce Natalia Zernitskaya to give a.
You want me to come up there?
Come up,
Yeah.
come up and.
Still like adjusting to being an elected official. So for those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Natalia Zernitskaya. I've been part of the Santa Monica community since about 2010 when I moved down here after graduating from UC Santa Cruz. If anybody here is a banana slug, banana slugs. What else can I say? I am actually bilingual in Russian and English, so I know that there are quite a few Russian-speaking residents in Santa Monica. So just in case you have like a neighbor or somebody who speaks Russian and can't figure out city services, feel free to send them my way and I'll do my best, or find somebody who speaks it better than me. What else? So I'm a renter. I live in the Pico neighborhood, but I did actually live in Ocean Park for about 6 months. Thank you, Judy, because my apartment flooded and Judy graciously let me stay in her house.
I forget you come to leave.
No, she's trying to get me to move back here. I don't know if it's so I'll come to more of these meetings. So some of my priorities, like my background is actually in economics. So with our very fun budget process coming up, I think that will be very helpful in, you know, helping shape our budget and prioritizing the things that are important to us. For me personally, the things that are really important are safe, stable, affordable housing for people of all ages, abilities, backgrounds, etc. Safe, adequate transportation, no matter what method of transportation you use. Safe streets, ability for folks to be able to walk or bike or take public transit, or if you really need to drive safely without risk of, with limited risk of collisions. So there's, you know, there's obviously a lot of work to do, and Santa Monica is obviously facing quite a few challenges, but I think this beautiful room of folks who came together on a Monday after New Year's to discuss what's important to them in the city is a really good indicator of what's next. And just a couple things I did want to bring up, just in terms of stuff coming up. The homeless count is coming up on January 23rd. So if y'all haven't gotten info about that and are interested in volunteering, January 23rd, and I'll send the link to Sean so he can share that with y'all. The first Pure Locals Night of this year is going to be January 16th. So from September to May, the third Thursday of every month is Pure Locals Night. So if you haven't been, it's really fun. There's live music, there's classic cars. Sometimes I bring my dog and she and I are dressed up in matching costumes. Sorry, I couldn't bring her this time. And the 30th anniversary of the Main Street Farmers Market is this month. So there was the kickoff, today's Monday, yesterday. So there will be stuff going on throughout the month on Sundays at the Main Street Farmers Market. I'm happy to take a couple questions if anybody has any. Go.
I don't know if this pertains to you, but speaking of housing, there's a huge complex right on board, like where I live, where I used to live, but on Marine, it's at least 40 units, and it's totally empty, and it has been since 2023 to 2023. There's 24-hour security. I was speaking to the doctor, I walked down there to go to the beach, and he said the owner is really not doing anything. It's sitting there empty. Again, there are guards, security guards, it's a home. But he said there is a rat problem, so the building's empty and all that type of thing. And maybe so somebody said the whole roof had caved in, so there might be debris or whatever. So I don't know if that's something, I don't know who would handle that, but it's a major concern.
Yeah.
It's really horrible.
That's a good question. I'm not very familiar with it. If it's the one that I'm thinking when I was knocking on doors, it might be the one that folks had to leave because it was no longer safe to live there. I'd have to ask and see what's going on with that, if there's anything that the city is working on, because I don't know in terms of like, if the folks who were living there are still being adequately compensated or were adequately compensated, or what the plan is.
I think it's financial issues with the owner, and I think the guard even said he's very chatty, just sitting there 8 hours and stuff. Indicated some of them are even homeless now, one of them had to look under a car, it's huge problems for people. Again, it's a huge complex. And again, with the rat problem and all that, it's not right.
You don't happen to know the address, or could you send 3108? All right, I'm gonna write that down.
She lives on our block.
Yeah, 3108, 4, and the corner of.
All right, I'm gonna just write that down and I can follow up with someone. Me and 4. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this iPhone. Since I now get to have 2 phones, and the city phone's an iPhone, and I've been using Android all my life, learning experience. So I'll check in and I'll see what I can find out.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Right here in the front first and then.
Oh, and Sean, right behind you.
Yep.
Gentleman had a
Yeah,
question.
go for it.
The bike path, do you go down there on the weekend?
I haven't been lately.
Well, there's, I'm afraid eventually, if we haven't yet, but, I think the city's open for a lawsuit because the law is you're not supposed to have an EV vehicle down there. Yet the city allows the scooter EVs to be parked all along the bike path, even on the bike path, which the city's condoning using. In that case, I think you're open for condoning using scooters. Somebody gets hurt, and I think the city's going to be open for a lawsuit. So what I'm asking you
Okay.
is to look into this and hopefully that are parked along areas that they're not supposed to use.
Just off the top of my head, if it's the scooters that are part of the pilot mobility program with the city, they generally have geofencing, so they can't actually go onto the bike path. They will literally stop. I've tried it. But if it's the other ones or ones that were done not in compliance with the city's pilot program, then I'm not sure why they're not being ticketed and
That's what I'm asking.
why. Yeah.
The guy, the gentleman that's supposed to overview, this type of where they're, he said that you have an employee, and he says, well, they have pedals. They do have pedals.
Oh, the Vios?
They have pedals, but that's to get started. Then they're going to go on the battery.
So I think that there's a little bit of nuance there because there's different types of electric 2-3-wheel vehicles. Some of them aren't allowed and some of them are. I don't remember the exact differences. I think it's most likely about if it's assisted or if it can go on its own. And I believe that there's some sort of speed requirement, or maximum speed limit that they can go up to in order to be able to be on. But
They're basically electrics. I hope you look at. I request you look into that because it's dangerous. You could go on a weekend and look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You had a question in the back?
Yes, I have 2 questions, please. First one is, I'm sure you're aware that July is the 150th anniversary of the city of Santa Monica, and we're just starting to pick up the pace on the celebrations. I want to know if you know anything about that. And I would like to know what you know about Olympic volleyball.
2 things that are a bit out of my depth. I haven't heard more information about. I am aware that it's 150th anniversary, but I don't know what plans have been put in place yet. Like full disclosure, I've only had 1 council meeting where we actually talked business so far, so still learning. And then on your second question, which remind me of it because my short-term memory.
Olympic volleyball,
Olympic volleyball.
which I can speak to if you.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to go?
Sure.
Go ahead.
And Mark Fleischer, are you on the line? I don't believe he is, but he's on the Santa Monica Olympic Committee. And I'm involved as well. The negotiations are still ongoing to the best of my knowledge. I think we talked about this in the November, October meeting, and there hasn't been substantial progress one way or another on that. We're in the running. Long Beach is bidding. I think Huntington Beach is bidding as well. They want a lot of money. And as we all know, Santa Monica's got some serious financial obligations ahead of us, and we have to figure out if we can make the math for hosting it or not. So.
Pretty obvious over New Year's weekend. Santa Monica's going to sell out regardless.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so I haven't heard of any progress one way or another on making that final determination. It's sort of like the standstill has been, here's what Santa Monica is willing to commit, X, Y, and Z. And the committee just has to make a choice of, do they want the pier in the background of the volleyball courts with a little bit less money, or do they want to do a cash grab and have a bunch of shipping containers in Long Beach? So we'll see where it goes. Happy to talk about it offline, but there's David White was part of helping form a 2028 Olympic Santa Monica committee, just to make sure we're as prepared as possible for it. Yeah.
I lived there a while. There's a lot of oil on the beach all the time.
Yeah, it really is just a dollars issue. It's up to the Olympic Committee what's more important.
Yeah.
So I actually give tremendous credit to the city negotiators on their ability to delay the decision, because the Olympic Committee was trying to get decisions made before the Paris Olympics, but everybody watching Olympics in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower really helped our position. So, but we'll see where it goes. I don't know if you have anything more to add.
Thank you for the assist. Yeah. Looking forward to whatever the next steps in our council discussions on
Yeah.
are gonna be.
Any other questions? Cool. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the immense amount of time you're about to give our city.
I'm really excited for it. Sadie is not though. Sadie's my dog. But the dog sitter is.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Cool. Next on our agenda is a discussion around the airport and what's going to happen with the airport after it closes. We've got a couple representatives from the Great Park Coalition here to speak on behalf of that. We've also got Vivian Rothstein here to speak on some alternative uses and plans and directions that we can be going with it. So I'm going to invite everyone to come up and sit down and please share some of your views, and let's have a discussion about it. Sounds good. And I'll let you guys introduce yourselves as well.
Great.
Anyone itching to go first?
Sure. I'm Vivian Rothstein. I've lived in Santa Monica for over 40 years. I live in the Santa Monica, in the Sunset Park area, and I raised my kids there. And I worked for the city of Santa Monica in the 80s, helping with community input on the park, on Cloverfield Park. So I'm familiar with parks discussions and leagues and that kind of thing. And more recently, I've worked on economic justice issues with the Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice and the Hotel Workers Union. I ran the living wage campaign, the ballot campaign in 2000 and 2002 to bring the living wage to Santa Monica. And I'm happy to be here.
Hi folks, my name is Joe Patel. I also live in Sunset Park with my wife, 2 kids who went through the school district who are now in their early 20s. I sit on the airport commission for the last several years. In terms of occupation, I've been a public interest lawyer almost my entire career, and I currently teach and work at Loyola Law School in their project readiness.
Hi, my name is John Fairweather. I'm a long-term Sunset Park resident. I was chair of Measure LC, which is the ballot measure that is why we're talking about with the airport. And I'm a board member of the Santa Monica Airport Park Foundation, and also a board member of the Great Park Coalition, which is so I'm representing both.
I'm also part of that. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I'm the mediator.
Anybody have any specific sort of talking points you want to sort of throw out there for, what your priorities are and goals and fundamentals?
Well, let me just give a sort of a background on the situation. First of all, neither organization, Airport Park or the Great Park Coalition, has taken any position on housing. So if that's what we're going to talk about, it'll have to be, if I say anything, that's my position, not an official position of either organization. Both organizations exist to restore the Great Park that the city acquired and built with the Parks Bond in 1926. And that original park included a golf course, tennis courts, field space, archery, skeet shooting, lawn bowling, and many other activities for that time period, one of which was amateur aviation, because in that time it was biplanes, and there was a little strip there. In World War II came along, the federal government took over that land, which was Santa Monica's Great Park, and handed it over for use by Douglas aircraft in the war effort. And the park was closed. And that takeover left Santa Monica very park poor. And the situation has only become worse as the population increases. So that our current park ratio is 1.4 acres per 10,000 residents, which is among the lowest in LA County. When combined with the adjacent Clover Park and the airport park, the land at the airport, the undeveloped land, which is about somewhere between 160 and 170 acres, will create a great park that is well over twice the size of all other Santa Monica parks put together. This is a huge opportunity to create a unique hub for a citywide park infrastructure. Santa Monica has been trying to close the airport for almost 50 years. And in 1984, the federal government and the city agreed that the city could close the airport in 2015, but the government reneged on that promise and didn't allow us to close it. And in 2014, the aviation industry collected signatures to put a measure on the ballot, Measure D, and that measure would have maintained the airport in perpetuity and removed all right for either the council or the voters to have any say in the airport's future. And the group that now has become Airport to Park formed to oppose that measure, of which I was the chair. And we worked with City Council to put another measure on the ballot, Measure LC. And what that says is if the airport closes, then any development on that land, other than for park and recreation uses, will require a general election vote by the community. So we organized that campaign against D, and we were up against over $1 million in spending from the national, this was the national aviation lobby, not local, and plus another $250,000 for paying for all the signature gatherers that they got. So, however, the result was 60% of Santa Monica voted to not perpetuate the airport and for it to become a park. So that was a huge sort of step forward in the process. And as a result of that victory, the city shortly after came to a new agreement with the government that gave the city the unambiguous right to close the airport on January 1st, 2029, without any argument from the government. And the city council, in accordance with the 2014 election, voted to do just that. So the city is now in a planning process for the parks, which is a multi-year process. And we hope we've all heard about it and participated in it, because this is an important thing for future generations. This is our generation's responsibility here. And both Airport to Park and the coalition think this process is crucial, because we're concerned that the aviation industry may not have given up yet and may bring another ballot measure if they see an opportunity to do so. And that such an opportunity would occur if the people of Santa Monica become discouraged about whether there really is going to be a great park as promised. And one way that that could happen is if there was a ballot measure before closure. That would give them the opportunity they're looking for. And we already see efforts to sow confusion amongst the public by introducing narratives that are not entirely accurate. So because of that, the Great Park Coalition was formed a couple of months ago to bring together all the people and organizations that believe this park will be the legacy of our generation for future generations, and to show the national aviation lobby that we are resolved and not going to change our minds on this issue so they don't get tempted. And we already have about 30 organizations that have signed up in that short period, and about 350 individuals, including a dozen former Santa Monica mayors. So the reason we're here is to ask OPA to join the other, many of the other neighborhood groups and join the coalition.
Anything to say? Yeah, please.
Yes. Is that, we're each making a presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk about the future generation as well. And there is an enormous crisis, not only in Los Angeles and California, but across the nation. And I'm not against a park. I think a park is a great idea. But in the figures that are talked about how much park we have or don't have, the beach is not counted in any of those numbers. And the beach is just a few blocks away, really, from the airport. So the open air, the open space that's available to this city is a lot greater than just the counts on the city parks. But I do agree that it would be great to put a park there. But I also feel that for the current and future generations, we need to consider placing housing on up to half of that land. If you look at the airport land and Clover Park, I think most of you have probably been to Clover Park. It is 10 times the size of Clover Park. Clover Park is already a huge park. I was involved in planning it, and there's fields there that teams and sports groups really advocated for, but they're not used. I go to that park almost every day to walk, and they're used very infrequently. I'm not against them, but to consider doing 10 times, using 10 times that amount of land to replicate something like that is something that I think we should consider. And I'd like to share some facts that I've become aware of. There's over 80,000 people who work in Santa Monica every day. And of those, only 7,000 live here. So there are 70,000 people who are commuting. And I can tell because I live right near Ocean Park Boulevard, and a lot of people are commuting along Ocean Park Boulevard, but it has dramatically increased over the last few decades. So it's not just that it affects us in terms of traffic. It affects the people who are now commuting sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours back and forth to their homes, and it's affecting our environment. So the kind of housing that I think we could build on part of the former airport would include housing, below market rate housing for people like nurses and school teachers and hotel workers and baristas and restaurant workers, people who actually keep our city going. And I think that most of us are aware that the school district is having trouble hiring and holding on to teachers because there's no place that people can afford to live. And I was recently at a demonstration with tech workers at Santa Monica Hospital, and I asked them about housing, and the stories were just really horrifying. The people work as nurses and techs in the hospital. They travel so much to commute back and forth that they can't have dinner with their children. So it's, I feel like when we think about the future generation, we all have a place to live here. But I know my kids never even thought that they could live in Santa Monica. And of all of their friends, only one lives in Santa Monica. So if we're thinking about the future generation, we have this opportunity of a lifetime. This is about 190 acres of land that's owned by the city. And in perpetuity, these units could be affordable, not just to very low income people, but they should be some, but also people who are moderate income people who are working to keep our city going. And also for people who've been displaced by government action, like people at the Pico neighborhood who lost their homes when the 10 freeway was built. There could be opportunities for them to get some redress of the treatment that they had historically. So I feel like it's actually an exciting thing. The other thing is 200 acres with nobody's eyes on it, day and night, doesn't seem very safe to me. But if people live, in the periphery of that area, they actually know what's going on in the park. And secondly, there is no funding for a park. And having housing that people are paying rent for over time will help to have a sustaining revenue source for the park. So I feel like it's not either or, it's actually both. And it's realistic, and it's probably the only realistic proposal because we're talking about remediation of the soil there, and it's been an airport and an airplane factory for decades. So there's an opportunity to have some income to deal with that. So I feel like it's we would be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to make Santa Monica's contribution to addressing the housing crisis for young people, for older people, for disabled people, for families, for people who have been displaced. I mean, I know that cities create housing land trusts. It takes them decades and decades to bring one piece of land, another piece of land. We have nearly 200 acres of land, and we could actually actualize the values that we have for open space, for, sports, for youth, but also for people to have the foundation of housing, without which you really cannot have a healthy life. And we see it every day on our streets. It is impossible. I feel like the beginning of civilization was when people came in out of the cold and went into caves, figured out how to create a covering for themselves, and to see that there are so many people in our county who don't have that is really a disaster and a failing on all of our parts. So thank you.
Thank you. If I could just make a couple points in response to that, just quickly. As I mentioned, I was a public interest attorney. I've spent my entire career mostly working in the Compton and Inglewood courthouses. I'm extremely sympathetic to the plight of the indigent clients that I represent every day. As I mentioned, I work now in a clinical program for incarcerated youth primarily. So these issues are very close to me in addition to housing. But when I look at the issue here in our community, I'm trying to look at a couple different things. Because for example, if you look at the coalition that we formed, there are 12 mayors who have joined our coalition. At least 4 of them are extremely pro-housing. In fact, 2 of them, Pam O'Connor, Judy Abdo, and others, have spent their lives promoting housing in our community. There's nobody that's going to say that the mayors who have joined us, who are supportive of housing, do not care about the plight of the housing. But if you listen and speak to them, what they're going to tell you is that that is not the best place for housing in our community. We created zoning, and we had this idea that we would create housing along the transportation corridors in our city, whether it's the Metro rail line, whether it's Colorado, whether it's Wilshire. This particular part of town is genuinely landlocked and would be very difficult in terms of the transportation and the burden it would place on the infrastructure. But when I came to John earlier this year about forming this coalition, I was looking through the prism of many different groups in our community. For example, the sports and recreations community. I've served on the boards of youth organizations, AOSO soccer, one of the swim clubs. And what I found as a parent, respectfully, is that I found myself every single day driving my children out of our community because we don't have enough field space. I had a daughter who swam. We would be swimming in the Pacific Palisades. I'd be driving 2 hours each day to Culver City. I'd be driving out to Loyola Marymount because if anybody who swims at the swim center knows that it's almost a knife fight between the youth teams and the adult teams and the senior teams. That's just one example. I have another daughter who played just informal soccer. And again, what struck me one time was when I was driving my daughter, who was a junior at Santa Monica High School, to have practice at University High School in West LA at 9:30 at night. And why was that? Because that was the only field space that was available. And we're not talking about a couple of kids. We're talking about thousands of kids. There's a reason why AYSO Soccer, which serves all of our community, 3,000 children, they've joined our coalition. That's why you have these amateur sports organizations primarily serving children. They've joined the coalition because they know the amount of time that parents spend driving out of our community for practices. And let alone talking about the adult and the senior activities that we all want to participate in. When I fly into Los Angeles, I just see this tremendous sprawl, but what I don't see is green open space. So when we're looking at terms of what our needs are, I believe that we have locations for affordable housing. What we don't have is an opportunity for green open space. But that's just 1/4 of this coalition. This coalition is composed of sports and recreational programs. And this is not for the elite kids. These are for kids who don't have a backyard to play in, who don't have a swimming pool in their backyard. These are kids who will not have opportunities otherwise. But you also look at, for example, the community gardens groups in this city. I've spoken at the community garden groups, it takes 10 years right now to get a little tiny spot of land to grow some tomatoes. 10 years, there are 900 families in our community waiting for a little spot. Let's truly talk about sustainable gardening and growth. We can do it cheaply. We can do it on 10 or 20 acres of open space instead of having, respectfully, these neighborhood farmers markets on the weekend where they have to bring in products from Fresno and Ventura. We can truly be growing fruit and vegetables locally as part of the sustainability goals. So if you look at the sports and recreation needs, if you look at the community garden needs, the arts and cultural needs, if you look at our website, if you look at the organizations who have joined us, it is community theaters, there are organizations from our high school, because wouldn't it be beautiful to have a place where you can have an outdoor performance, an open space for theater in the summer, an open space, maybe an amphitheater. There are many people in our community who are very interested in the arts and cultural component that we don't have right now. And then finally, and I think really importantly and often overlooked, are the environmental sustainability groups that are very supportive of our efforts. We have people who, for example, want to build water recapture programs up there. With the passage of Proposition 4 recently, there's state funding. I know that the city of Santa Monica is already in touch with the state about building a water recapture. With that amount of land, where that water currently just drains into Hyperion sewer treatment plant, we could become probably completely water independent. We're 75% right now, but we could probably get up there. If we cover it with housing or anything like that, it's going to be very difficult. We can also achieve other parts of our environmental and sustainability goals. And so, as I've said, from a personal standpoint, housing is incredibly important to me as a person, but these other things are also important. We need to sort of balance all of these interests. And so that's, I think, what the coalition is about. We're trying to satisfy as many different needs as possible.
Thank you. Cool. And I know, I think we have a few questions. I know Judy had her hand up, and then I will see who else has questions as well.
When I look at the airport and the environs around it, I notice that on Ocean Park Boulevard, there is a business that is not being used very much. It used to be full. All those parking lots used to be full. They're no longer full. I drive through it on purpose to just kind of check it out at different times of the day, just see what's happening. Lots of empty space there. And I assume inside the buildings, there's a lot of empty space. I've never gone in to check that out recently, in the last 20 years. But I tend to see the airport and the business park as all one big space. And if you drive in on 28th, you can kind of drive through and see what it's like. There's a fence at the airport, which makes sense. You don't want people just walking onto the runway, but you can see where the business park and the airport connect in many different ways. And I just want all of us to be thinking about how do we use this very large space? And I've never added it up. I guess Natalia left, but
It's 47. The business park is 47 acres.
oh, good. Okay.
And in the business park, and I've spoken with their management, they're very interested in redeveloping that site.
Yes,
because
and
right
I
now
have mixed with them too.
Right.
And I think it's really important that we all be talking to each other about all of these ideas, and that we make sure that the airport actually closes.
Can I make a comment about that?
Sure.
The difference between those two plots of land is the business park is privately owned, and even if it turned into housing, it's gonna be market rate housing. The land at the airport belongs to the people of Santa Monica, and the opportunities to do justice to people who, and young people, all kinds of people who are being driven out of the city. It's a unique opportunity. And one other thing I'd like to mention, that the state has put requirements on every city and county in California for the housing production. And Santa Monica has to produce 9,000 new housing units by 2029. And of those, 6,700 have to be affordable for low income and very low income people. 6,700 units. And where are we going to be able, where are we even getting a start on that? Because all the other development is on privately owned land. And you can maybe get 15% inclusionary for low income people, and that's it. And that's not going to add up to 6,700 units. So, I mean, we have a responsibility in relationship to the state's housing crisis. And there will be consequences if we don't meet them. So the difference between private and public land is the difference between day and night, in my opinion.
Do you have a comment as well or not?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out there's a lot of distressed commercial and industrial spaces all over the city. We're not just talking about the Boston properties thing. The city is full of empty strip malls and distressed commercial property. And I think if we think about that, those people that own that property can't afford to just keep it sitting empty. There is a way to solve our housing crisis while maintaining quality of life by having park space. In addition to the requirement for the number of housing, the state has a thing called the Quimby Act that says that there should be at least 3 acres per 1,000 residents of park space. Even if we double our park space by making it all park, we still won't reach 3 acres. So we can't sort of take these two questions separately. We have a lot of problems in this city. We're very constrained for space, and we have to think smartly about how we use the available opportunities for solving which problems. And there's only one package, there's only one parcel like this. This city it's 5% of the city's area. And it's 0% of the city's revenue.
Lucy, you had your hand up.
Parents would call me in El Dorado Park there, that's totally amazing. All the things that the legislature, everything, a lawyer.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, the community garden, especially for seniors. A lot of the sports stuff, but a lot of big areas that a lot of children could go to, not just a little too big park, but a big area for children, a big area for the dog park, the dog run, small dog, big dog. Each area had a nice chunk, each category had a nice chunk of land where they can spread out, and again, a huge garden with beaches, rolling parks. There were even classes that were taking Long Beach College seniors, and they were growing vegetables, sharing the tomatoes. They had so much extra cucumbers and tomatoes and everything, sharing with the community. It's really not realistic, in my opinion, about the low income housing was really, even though it's really thoughtful and very helpful to these people, and I feel sorry for them. But that's like, it's really, I see it as unrealistic. One last thing on downtown, going to library, there's so much development down there with so many apartment buildings going up, it's astounding. So it's just, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm really for the multi-use land for everybody. Because even in New York and Central Park, we'd always book it, there's always something to do.
I would just add on to the first point you made. I see this genuinely as a matter of equity, because I think one thing that I noticed that when I walk around Clover Park, I'm actually admire the large families that I see on the weekend having these really wonderful outdoor gatherings, these birthdays, these quinceañeras. And it's not probably people in this room, to be candid with you. It is often the very lower income families who don't have air conditioning, who don't have a backyard, who are living in, multi-unit housing. And so they go to our parks to take advantage of our parks. This is not about favoring the well-to-do in our community. And I honestly see this, again, from my background, as a matter of equity. We truly owe it as we grow denser and taller. We need a place where people can go, young and old, rich and poor, can play together in an open space. That's the way that I personally look at it.
I'd just like to clarify that my proposal is not that it's all low income, but that it includes a mix of housing, including for people like nurses and city employees. And so that's a mix, not that it's just exclusively low income.
Jerry, you had your hand up?
Terry Rubin, resident of Ocean Park. I'm on the Urban Forest Task Force, but just speaking for myself, first of all, I went to a few of the Great Park Coalition meetings and the airport to park meetings over the years. And I think everybody really appreciates that we have an opportunity to close the airport, save people's health from pollution, noise, safety, so many crashes. It's a dangerous place, and the people voted on it. And one of the things that I think is important is I really feel that our council and everybody here is an advocate for our environment and parks and housing that people can afford. I'm concerned about the people that are speaking out against low-income housing everywhere, like they even tried to stop it here in Ocean Park. And we need to remain united. Our people are going to use this division against us, so neither of us get anything. So I really feel the power of the Great Park Coalition is its diversity. Hundreds and hundreds of people and organizations that might disagree on a number of things, but they agree on keeping this park what the ballot initiative said. So we don't have to have another ballot initiative, and that we can build affordable housing on the perimeters and around the other parks and in our city. I think even if we go 1 or 2 stories higher, it's going to be worth it. And that great park is going to be amazing for the trees that are waiting to be planted, the forest, as former Mayor Abdo said, and the dozens and dozens and dozens of other activities for cultural and recreational use that people are going to benefit. So we need everyone to remain united on this as we proceed. And that way we'll get more of both.
Thank you, Jerry. We only have time for a few more hands because we're running way long, but I'll try. Sorry, board members first. Chris.
Just a question on the park. And this came up a year ago, I think, when I was at a neighborhood council meeting. But the costs for this, right? Not only to build the park, but really to maintain the park can be quite exhaustive. And obviously we're in a situation already with our budget. So can you talk a little bit about plans for that?
Yeah, I think that the first thing to realize is that right now, all the revenue, the city used to lose money when running the airport. In 2015, they raised the rates and things. So now they're making about $20 billion a year. Just renting out to non-aviation businesses the surrounding facilities. But that $20 million a year is stuck in the airport fund. It's not available for the city to use for anything else until the airport closes, and it won't be. When the airport closes, however, even more of the existing facilities that are right now aviation can be leased at full market rates to non-aviation businesses, which requires like a tiny fraction of the amount of space per employee and therefore generates much higher revenues. We expect that 20 million to multiply by a significant factor. That money alone is enough to build an initial park, because the plan has always been that it's incremental. It's like the Tempelhof model, which is this airport in Germany where they just closed it and didn't do anything. And it's one of Germany's most popular parks now. It didn't cost them anything. It just let it go to nature. And we could start from that point. But we have 20 millions multiplied by whatever the factor is when the rest of the facilities are released. That's enough to pay for the initial, is certainly enough to pay for the running of the park, maintenance and running. And it's also enough to pay if, for example, we decided that it was necessary to have a bond measure to finance it, it would be enough to service the payments on that loan on an ongoing basis for that bond measure. And then, of course, there's philanthropy, and the fact of the matter is that great parks have been demonstrated to generate huge amounts of revenue for the great, all great cities have a great park. And for example, the Highland Park, which was finished in 2011, 4 years later was generating $900 million of revenue for the city. That's now $2 billion. A great park increases the revenues of the surrounding area, and that is enough to finance it. So
we only have time for a couple. We only have time for a couple concise last questions, both of you.
Just one thing on the Highland. Remember when before that was set up, Giuliani wanted to take out that railway line in order to have housing and offices built into that space. That didn't happen. The park opened, and around that park are now sprouting offices and residential sites because you have that magnet. Everybody wants to be near it.
Thank you.
Thanks for presenting. My name is Andrew. I think actually the idea both sound great, and honestly, it's a no-lose situation for Santa Monica going from the airport to either or. I found myself thinking, this sounds really good. Oh, this also sounds really good. Oh, this sounds really good too. That being said, it seems like the two gentlemen are on one side of the equation and the ladies on the other side. So I have a question for each group. For the gentlemen, the question is, can we not do both? Is there a combination option that you guys would look into in terms of housing and park recreation?
Well, there's two questions. There's two answers to that. First is before closure, as I mentioned in my introductory. If we have building housing would require a ballot measure because that land is controlled by Measure on Sea. If we put a ballot measure on, especially one talking about housing, which as the chair of the fight last time, the National Aviation Lobby says some outrageous things, and like the plan was to turn it into Century City or whatever. It will be difficult to fight that if we put a ballot measure on before. So we cannot do that. So what that, for our own good, because none of us get anything. So what that means is up until closure, we have to have an LC compliant plan. Now, what happens after closure? That's another question, but certainly up until closure.
And Vivian, and then we have to wrap up. Yep.
I really disagree on planning based on fear. If you're afraid that the people of Santa Monica will not be able to see clearly that there's a housing crisis, that there's an opportunity to provide housing for people that they're related to, that they work with, that they get benefits and services from, you just don't win when you're afraid. And I think that the housing crisis has become so serious, and it's even international at this point, that it's possible to actually talk to people about real issues, and that we should not be afraid of the airport people, that we should move forward with a planning process that includes housing, which right now, the city's planning process barely even gives you an opportunity to support housing. It is so skewed. And I think that people are smart, and people in this community are smart. And we know that we are lucky that we can live here. And that people who are struggling to support this city and give us services have a right to live here too.
And thank you for a follow-up question. Just in terms of essentially putting housing out there, two things. One, is there any concern about putting housing on this former industrial site? Like, is there an environmental study that's done? Because that's a concern. And then the second thing is your proposal to put all potential housing in the housing trust for permanently people, or what would your actual proposal be? Is it to developers? Is it?
Well, the developers would develop it, you know, but they would not, it would be perpetually affordable because they would never own the land. The land would always be owned by the city for the future. So that question. And the first question?
Environmental.
Yeah, well, I think that there has to be a major environmental analysis and cleanup of the whole land. I mean, if you're having kids playing on the fields and you don't know what's under the field, it's dangerous, you know, as much as it is for living there. So there's going to have to be an analysis and a major cleanup because it's been a factory forever. And I want to say one other thing. To say that we have to follow what was decided and intended in 1926 is really tying, it just doesn't make any sense. The world has changed, Santa Monica has changed, the needs of human beings have changed, and our capacity to deliver for people has changed. So although I think the history is very interesting, I think that it should not guide us. I think we need to look to the future.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but we're out of time. We've gone 15 minutes longer.
I would just say, if anybody's interested in more information, we do have a website. It's greatparkcoalition.org. I'll remain afterwards. If there's anybody who would like to speak or share contact information, I'm always more than willing to sit down if you want to have coffee. I'm always willing to do that. So please feel free to reach out if you want to chat.
Thank you, and
Can I say the same thing?
yeah,
If you're interested in advocating for housing to be included in a great park, to support a great park plus housing, please let me know and I'll keep you informed.
And I'll include the ability, you know, the contact information in the next newsletter so people can follow up and lean in on this issue. It's obviously a big issue for all of us over the next 10, 20 years. Thank you. Thanks for making time today. We're gonna jump into board business. I know a few people have to leave. We're a little tight on time because this discussion ran super long, but we're gonna jump into board business. Should we start with the treasurer's report first and then? Okay. Please, if you want to talk with anyone, take it outside immediately. We need to get. Thank you very much. Please step outside the room if you're not. Please step out of the room if you're in the spot. People are here. What happens? Closing the door. All right, we're super tight on time because this ran really long, but it was a good discussion to have. I'll make sure people have information for following up on. First order of business, because this is January, is we have to elect a new executive board. This is a president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. We're gonna open the floor to nominations for president first. I saw Judy's hand up first. I think I heard a second from somebody. Is there anyone else that people nominate? Yeah.
Do you want to do?
I will accept the nomination. I haven't yet. I'm hoping to momentarily though. We've done it only online, not in person. But I will momentarily. Is it does each person vote? I forget. Roll call vote, okay. Because our acting secretary, is out, I'm happy to run the roll. Yep.
I'm calling alphabetical order. Judy? Yes.
That's what.
Yes, Sean.
Oh, second. Okay, good.
Sean, do you vote for yourself?
Sure.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jeffrey is not here.
Jeffrey's online.
Oh, hi, Jeffrey.
He's on mute.
Never mind. I'll see you, the other Jeffrey.
Sorry, Jeff Bunning. We'll assume that's a yes.
Me, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
John's not here. Abe?
Yes.
Lucy? Yes. Dave?
Yes.
Okay, now you know the board.
Okay,
Now it's.
do we have a nomination for vice president?
Robbie, how about?
I'm happy to do it again. If everybody else wanted to.
And we can have one or two vice presidents if there's more than one person interested.
Nice.
Awesome. Are there any other nominations or self-nominations? I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll do it again. Judy? Yes. Sean?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jeffrey Fleming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex.
Robbie?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Lucy? Yes. Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Treasurer.
Okay.
Ian, who would you like to nominate? Shocking. Patty.
Second.
Is there anyone that would like to run against Patty? I dare you. All right.
Doing it well.
Yes, crushing it for 15 years.
How long has Oprah been around? 15 years? Ask Jeff.
All right, nobody else. Let's vote.
Judy?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
That one, now how about the other one?
Yeah.
Okay, Patty, me.
Oh.
Robbie, Kelly.
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Ian, Dave,
Yes.
Lucy, and Dave. Now this one's the tough one.
Secretary, and the secretary is in charge of taking minutes and sort of, sort of just memorializing what goes on at the meetings. I would like to nominate Kelly if she's open to it. But I want to see also if there's anyone else that is interested in the role of secretary.
I second that nomination.
Would you accept that? Great.
Okay, last time, Judy. Yes. Sean.
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Jeffrey. Me, yes. Jeffrey.
Yes. Yes.
Robbie.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Ian.
Yes.
Abe.
Yes.
Lucy. Yes. Dave. That was easy. Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you, everyone. Cool, with that done, let's jump into the treasurer's report from last year.
Okay. First of all, I'm hoping that this coming year, we can do it at least every other month. Because this is a whole year now. And I'm, oh, good, you did do this. Okay, well, we actually went over quarter one. This took a little time to do. Let's go to quarter two. Or go down to quarter two. Okay, quarter two, what I did is I put all of the income in one column and then all of the expenditures, so you can see how we're doing. In quarter two, we took in $1,738. That was a very good quarter. But we spent $3,777. So,
That's a little issue. So let's go with another one. This is going to be posted. Okay, so Q3, we took in $3,478. And we spent $5,464. So you see there's a pattern here. Okay, Q4, we took in $4,262. Now, a lot of this was donations. We don't make very much money with our membership, and I'm going to go into that in a minute. And then we spent $7,672. Okay, so we started off with a lot more money than we ended. And what I did is when we go up is try to make it, yeah. What I try to do is do a breakdown because I am crazy. So I took every single thing that was on there and showed where our membership and our membership basically here was $6,655. There are some donations in there. The next thing down is where we see our membership. Our membership is, if you look at those numbers, that's what we get monthly in membership that goes to PayPal, or I guess next. We did get a refund from Santa Monica Unified School District for that thing with the forum. We had a nice membership and donations here that was from multiple donors that helped us with our Christmas party. We even got some Venmo going. And then, of course, we paid a whole $1.14 in interest. The community grant had $500. The neighborhood grant, which came in January, was the $7,000 that we really depend upon. And then we had Made Music LA. They gave us $1,166 because only 3 of the neighborhood organizations did it. And so they just gave us all more money. It was nice. So we took in $18,836. Okay, that's good. But there's a problem that I'm looking at right now, is the fact that they have not put out the neighborhood grant. And I don't know anyone who's heard about anything more about it. They say, oh, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. I'm afraid that they're not going to get to it, and if they don't get to it, we're going to have a bit of a problem. Because that $7,000 is very important to us. So if we take a look down at what we spent, for our website and email, we spent almost $6,000. And that's just for the website. The website is $5,700 with the amount of people that we are getting our newsletter out to. We have insurance, our storage, which was $600 a year in a really small place, is now about $2,500 a year. And it's a nice place that is big, but it's a bit pricey. And then we did a few donations, not too many, $950. Okay, I even put in how much we paid the IRS. We can go down a little more. We don't have any advertising going. A community grant, we gave $1,000 to, I don't know what their name was, the LG. Yeah, it was the network. The network. But that came in 2 parts from the city. They gave us $500 in the first year, last year, and well, 2 years ago, and another $500 this year. Then we take a look at how much money we spent feeding people, and that's another $2,900. But these two, the party was almost completely covered by donations. So that was really nice. And then, more money. We took in $18,000. We spent $21,000. That's going to be problematic if we don't get the $7,000. Yeah. So I'm really looking at what we need, where we're going to
discuss cutting some of the money that we're spending. Or we have the option of raising the price of membership. I mean, $10 for seniors could go to 15 or 20, still won't break the bank, and that's a year. You know, $20 could go to 30, $30 to 40, and so on. Again, that little bit of money would add an extra $10 per membership, would add an additional $3,000 to what we're taking in.
They didn't, they didn't have all the food, like just basic snacks, the
Well,
Costco snacks.
I buy the food at Ralph's. The food is under $80 total. And if I went out and bought it catered already,
I didn't know you made that.
yeah. We do stupid silly things like this and, you know, making sandwiches for a couple of hours. But it's all good. It's good. It makes me feel better. Because we were spending way too much money. And we also have to take a look at our mixers because our mixers get expensive too. So this is something I think we need to start just talking about at next meetings and how we would want to handle this if we don't get the neighborhood grant. If we get it, then everything is sort of okay. But if by March we haven't seen anything, I think we're going to need to make some changes. And that's why I sort of would like to do this every other month. Not this deep, but make sure people know where we're standing so we don't go over the cliff. Any questions?
With the LA County Supervisors, isn't there some kind of a grant?
We got the grant, we didn't get offered another one. And since there's different county supervisors, they may come up again.
Was that in there or no?
No, that was from 23. Well, it went into last year. Last year, well, 24, I had to send them the paperwork to show.
I think it's still available to us.
Then it's something we can look at again.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
The neighborhood coalition meetings, I haven't seen it on any of the agendas. Have they been talking about the neighborhood grant and the fact that?
Dave and I have been going every week, every month, listening. And sometimes leaving early, but.
So like
No, we haven't discussed it, but Zena, did mention it in, a couple weeks ago, which made me try to get a hold of, city, and the city wasn't responding, but it was validating.
Yeah, I remember when I was representing us on that, we talked about it every month.
Well,
So I'm surprised it dropped off.
Yeah, I think what the issue is here is that we had an election. We have 4 new council members and a new mayor, and the city manager is leaving.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of information that has to happen very quickly, and they have to figure out the budget.
Well, that's why I'm hoping to
And
wait till
so
about March to see.
I think we can communicate our needs and probably be
Right, well,
successful.
I wanted people to know that we have needs.
Yeah.
And it could be, not easy. We will not go broke. I mean, we have little things here that I keep money in, I keep some of the money in this, just a savings account that I put out.
Empty out your pockets right now.
We'll make sure we prioritize figuring this out, and I'm sure we're not alone. Tony, you had your hand up?
Just a simple question.
Yes.
And it's, I guess we're not talking about that much money, but I mean, is there any thought to putting money into higher interest savings account?
We don't have that much money.
And so it would make it, that's what I'm saying, it would make a difference based on the money to do a 4.5, you know, interest rates are lower now.
Yeah, but, I don't keep that much money.
So it would
because
make a
we
difference
don't-
though.
Actually, the amount of money that we have altogether was the 11,000, was it 11,000?
11, yeah.
That's what we have all together, with both accounts.
Right.
So we're not gonna,
Okay.
yes,
Just one comment. I brought it up before. I know people turn it down, but if you have over 2,000 people on this newsletter and people throw in $5 a piece, it's 10 grand. I mean, we don't have to have these discussions. It's only $5. And, you know, when people sign up for membership, if the membership is 10, extra 5 to get the newsletter. And people who aren't signed up, if they pay $5, maybe they'll consider paying another 10 for the membership. But, you know,
that takes a lot of juggling. We're talking 2,000 people.
well, just put it out, you know, we're gonna run this, but to keep it going, we need $5 a day. I don't think people will object to the $5.
Yeah, and I've taken the other side of that, but I'm open to revisiting it. I feel that if we start charging for the newsletter, it's gonna be a massive drop off. And our, you know, part of our charter and goal is educating as many people in the community as possible. I've tried to use the newsletter as a vehicle for raising money. I'm sure some of you noticed over the holidays, I kept saying, great, you know, please donate to OPA, end of year giving. But I think we had very few responses to that. I think we got like 2 or 3 donations in December based on like probably 5 calls to action.
This is why I'm thinking that we should maybe up the dues, because the dues are ridiculously low. $10 a year is, you know.
Which I get, but we're not, organization doesn't stand to collect membership dues. I know that we need money, but I think there's other routes to do it than to ask people for more membership dues. Membership, since I've been on the board now, I just finished my 4th year. We've been going down, right?
No,
on a
actually,
pretty steady trajectory.
we're at the 300 and something that we usually have. We went up during COVID because nobody had anything to do, and the things that were going on Wednesday brought that up a lot. Almost another 100, but as soon as it was over, it went back down to where it was at.
Steve, is your question up? Your hand up, sorry.
I might have missed it when we were going over the budget, but do you have any kind of a, you know, like with the Main Street businesses and so forth, do you have a business membership?
We do have a membership, but yeah, we have about a half a dozen Main Street businesses that have joined it. Yeah.
50, 100 and 250. Depending.
3 tiers.
Yeah. We have a couple of 250s. We have, I think, 4. I have the list at home. I think 4 that at 50.
And
mostly they ask
goes
us
to all of the Main Street businesses.
To the extent possible, we haven't done sort of a dedicated, you know, ask people to walk in and talk to, you know, businesses and do sort of a hard sell. It's hard. It's a hard communication. Like, we've tried to get as many businesses as possible on the newsletter and use that as a wheel, but we haven't. So thank you.
It's going out to 2,000 people or whatever, that's great.
Thank you.
I was just asking, so I'm brand new to all of this, but so what is the pitch to business?
Introduce yourself to the room, by the way.
Jim down on Main Street. Great, thanks. And so I'm sure we'd be happy to join. I was wondering, what's the pitch to businesses? What's the benefit they get from being members?
It's guaranteed mentions, depending, you know, they're either monthly or quarterly or whatever, depending on the tier that you get, is the primary, as well as sort of giving back, you know, supporting the community, and we try to highlight the businesses that support OPA a little bit more.
Is it a 501c3?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, don't worry.
Will had his hand up a while ago.
Well, I mean, maybe what we could do for the next meeting is figure out the right situations.
Okay, I will not be here the next meeting because I'll be in Egypt.
But whenever we process.
Between now and then.
I'm happy to help with it. I don't know,
Well,
Hold on, Tony, then Ian, then Chris.
I was gonna say maybe more like outreach to residents. You know, we were walking down and ran into our neighbor said, we're coming here. Hey, hello, what's OPA? told him what it was, he goes, that sounds fantastic. So again, he was on his way somewhere, but like just the idea that not many people that live in the neighborhood know about what we do here and know about OPA, but more talking to your neighbors and asking them to come to meetings and join and have more fundraising events, more mixers that don't require spending a lot of money, but like having to come to wherever it can be, you know, negotiating with some of the restaurants that are on Main Street, you know, talk with them about having more events to get more membership and to get more interest in OPA and what OPA does and make it more advantageous for the neighbors to.
Yeah.
We don't include ads.
No, we have no paid ads. We don't have, there's no bandwidth for it, I think.
Anyone else?
We don't have permanent logos of business members, but that is a good idea.
Actually, maybe even for the 250 people, maybe even at the bottom, have the logo of the donor. So up to 50 and 100. There's lots of room. Anyone else? I'm glad you liked dinner tonight. You saw that.
Thanks for that. Very.
I think that's it from executive committee matters. Moving on to communications. I don't think I have anything specific to talk about with the newsletter as we just, you know, we talked about it extensively just now. I think the total number is 2,177 people get it. Open rate is still holding strong around 60%. So that's going to continue to go out twice a week. Always looking for contributors. Whether it's on the regular or occasionally. I know Jeff Jarrow mentioned trying to highlight community members. If people ever want to highlight a favorite business or a favorite person or anything at all, please, the more contributors, the better. Always looking for content for that.
Are you still the one that's just putting it together?
Yep.
By yourself?
Yep. Thank you. Member count, Patty, do you want to give anything specific on the member count in addition to all this, or are we good?
312. And then some of them are households, so even more members.
Right.
And more people.
Cool. Winter, I have upcoming events. There's nothing on the calendar yet for winter. I wanted to say, do we want to try and do a winter mixer? If so, what? And is there something, or what and where? And, you know, thinking about budget stuff. Any questions or thoughts on a winter mixer? We've been trying to do them quarterly.
I think we should be a winter mixer. Then try to figure out, you know, where we could have it, what restaurant would, Lula or somewhere else that would accommodate us. And then again, invite, you know, other neighbors to come and people who are not aware of OPA, live in the area.
Yep.
I think Lewis would let us do that.
I'm sure. So happy to discuss that with a few people and we can see if we can get something. Yeah, I was thinking March would be better. I know it's more spring, but probably better from a weather perspective. I think last year we tried to do a February one and canceled it because of the weather. Judy.
I just wanted to say to the people in this room, if you have a little bit of extra money, you can go on the OPA website and donate it. And, you know, it comes off taxes. It's a good thing. Yeah, we are a 501c3 and I just did it. And who else is going to do it? Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Judy.
I was just gonna chime in from like a free perspective. If you have time, like if anybody wants to plan a February event and you don't have to be on the board, if anybody wants to take the reins with that, like we support you. I'd be happy to try to help a little bit or something, but I think usually this time of the year, Sean's making sure that just re-emphasizing, make sure that you're joining task forces or committees, or there are opportunities to get involved if you wanna spend more time with this group. So just saying that, and maybe that was something you were gonna say later, and I stole your thunder.
No, please, thank you for doing that.
Great.
It's a perfect segue into sort of the next part of the meeting, which is talking about 2025 priorities and various sort of committees and task forces. We are a volunteer organization and we accomplish what the members prioritize. There is no set agenda for Ocean Park Association. And the committees sort of like ebb and flow over the years, depending on what people are passionate about, and more importantly, what someone who's passionate about something is willing to take action on that. Because you can't just say, yes, let's do this, and toss it over to the board to say, go make that happen. And to Robbie's point, you don't have to be on the board to get involved or to plan an event or to spearhead anything. There's no board requirement for that. And so I do want to sort of go around the room now and let people say a quick hello and mention one or two things that are sort of top of your mind in terms of what you think our priorities should be for 2025. And we're not going to make any sort of firm decisions or lock into anything tonight. What I'm hoping to do is come away from tonight with sort of a list of things that people are thinking about, and then try and sort of regurgitate that in a more organized fashion and try and coalesce around some of the things we really want to focus on, and do we need any more or different committees as we go through the year. Sound good? And I'm gonna go start over here with Will.
I'm gonna pass for this.
Okay. Abe.
Well, if you don't know, I had the Emergency Preparedness Committee, and I'll continue to do that next year. We met a couple of times late last year, and or to figure out where we were, because we didn't have an emergency preparedness committee for like 4 years during COVID. So in the next meeting, I plan to discuss how we're going to roll out the things that we've been discussing during the last couple of meetings.
Speaking of, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to mention that earlier.
We have some material from the American Red Cross here. So we will be rolling more out during the course of the year, but Karen, who was on the committee the last time, picked this stuff up like 4 years ago. Okay? It's still pertinent today because disaster preparedness doesn't really change that much. So if you would like, pick up what we have here. There will be more as we collect. We haven't done any collection from places like American Red Cross and FEMA. So we'll have more to distribute during the course of this year.
Great, thank you. Chris, anything you want to call out?
Yeah, I'm thinking based off of the conversation from just before that there might be a need for some sort of budget committee that we haven't had, at least in the last few years. So probably interested in that. And then the art task force, which was really strong during COVID, and then Mark moved away. Then Nick stepped away from the organization, so I've lost my partners in crime with that. But I would, I'm still interested in trying to do something with that, bring it back.
Cool. Ian.
Well, I've been, the past few years, I've been involved in the diversity committee and also Main Street committee.
Judy.
I'm thinking if we have a budget committee, it really ought to focus on fundraising, so maybe it's both things.
I was thinking in my head the word revenue, and I didn't want to call it a revenue. So but fundraising.
I'm just thinking that we live in a community where there are people and businesses that could be contributing much more than they do if we just ask them. And we need to figure out a plan for how to ask them. The other thing is that I wish we could now that COVID maybe is over, maybe we can organize some local groupings to try to, with the idea of that it's still OPA, but that we bring more people into our organization by having small little groups that connect with each other. It's just a dream of mine.
Thank you. Patty?
I agree about the budget and the fundraising membership committee. And I'm going to go through the next couple of days our membership because people have not paid that they're doing. And they think they sign on and it's all fine. Then I'll talk it to them. Sit them on button. But that's about all I can really focus on.
And I'm not just asking for what people are asking to commit to, it's sort of what's top of mind for us as well, so feel free. Okay.
This will not survive if we don't have the funds.
Right. David?
I'm gonna there's three things I want to get to this year, maybe four. I want to continue the partnership with Gila Bay and do 3 more beach cleanups for the Adopted Beach program. I wanted to make music LA again. It's gonna fall on a Saturday this year. Everybody wants to help put together a live music at the beach. So it's gonna be Saturday, June 21st. I want to supply over here pounds. And I want to get a committee of sorts together to see if we can shine up Lincoln Boulevard a little bit. I know the city's doing some improvements, but I don't know if there's a way we can make Lincoln look better through community action. Team up, maybe get people together and work on cleaning up stuff or other, that's ideas maybe. That's what you're about.
Cool. Lucy?
Well, I mentioned last year about the farmers market on Sunday, and they've gotten a lot better. I only eat organic food, and now this year they have a lot more organic produce. We used to have to go downtown, so it's a lot easier to just walk there, and we know when to get involved with that a little bit. Although the woman college is an excellent job, but somehow get involved with that and possibly with the art. And then it helped with the Main Street thing, so I'd like to pursue those. But definitely something along the lines of the farmers market. A lot more management this year.
Jeff, anything to, I heard you've got some interest in 4th of July, but beyond that.
As for the 4th of July, Jody mentioned also the 150th year anniversary of the city. So we're planning a bigger parade this year. Some people even talk about turning it around the other way.
Again?
But if it's going to come to fruition, I want to see like big presence there, that it runs through our neighborhood. Retailers down Main Street. We need to make a showing for them. It'll be the actual date is July 14th, the 150th year anniversary, so it's going to kick off the parade. It's important for us to have a show.
Cool. Anything else? Okay. Please, both of you.
Well, in addition to fundraising and getting more outreach to people about OPA, one thing you and I first talked about when we went for coffee was exploring the idea of some of the empty storefronts on Main Street, trying to figure out a way to do something equitable with the leaseholders, the owners, to do some kind of pop-ups in these, like especially the one where just comes to mind where Same Day Health was. That corner, is it Marine or is it Pier? I think it's Pier. Just, again, that's just an example of a place that's empty and clean in there to do some kind of like events that are advantageous for the leaseholder to do. So we're revitalizing some of the places that are down.
Yep.
Temporary pop-ups, whatever it is, negotiating with anyone who has any ideas, people who own businesses, again, to work with me on that, work with us on that.
Cool. Sam, anything that's top of your mind for the neighborhood?
That was actually kind of what got me inspired to get more involved with all the vacant areas. So I don't have a set plan for it, but I want to make more things happen.
Cool.
I see it on vacant spots.
Yeah. Cool. Mark, anything to add? Okay.
Tuesday, right? The things you mentioned, focusing on, this is such a beautiful area of the world that we're so lucky to, I'm so grateful to live here. But beautifying, we used to have to beautify, the world, we beautify within, and we talked about one, the boulevard and tree planting, and the area maybe already exists, and then the beach, whether it's cleanups or perhaps it's such an amazing resource. Anything else that you can do, with the beach to promote OPA, maybe not just in beach cleanups, but just focusing more on nature and environment. All the work you do is so great, and that's why I mean, personally, I think raising the membership $5 per person or something, shouldn't incur too much. This organization has to survive, and knocking on some doors of businesses.
Is there anyone here who would like to get a form to be a member?
What's that good? Okay.
We could sponsor some kind of local volleyball challenge or something, tying the Olympics. We have some kind of thing we could do for membership. Create some kind of team, something. Challenge another neighborhood group.
No. A regular, but not a ringer. Anything to add? What's your name?
I'm Scotty. Hey, Scott. First time coming to the meeting, yeah. Thanks, man. Learned a lot of what you guys are talking about. I'm also passionate about a lot of the empty space. I like the idea of some fundraising. I have a slew of ideas that I'd be happy to share and talk about. I know what the art initiative, but that sounds cool. Artists like that stuff too, so that sounds fun. I hope to be more involved.
Awesome.
And be more frequently. So.
Thanks for coming today.
I'm Becca, new community member, I'm Scotty's partner. And I would agree, yeah, just more OPA awareness, fundraising, and again, also thinking of probably a lot of ideas that people in here.
I'm Tess. I live in the same building as these two. And I actually have been thinking a lot about social connection in Ocean Park, and I put up a bunch of signs. I don't know if you saw any of them on the lampposts. But we put the back, and I bought staple guns, so now if anybody needs one. But in like maybe 4 weeks, over 200 people signed up, and we had 2 events, and it's like of all ages. I met a few people at different duty came to one of them. And I'm in no way trying to compete. I work from home, and I was like, I've been thinking used to be a community manager at WeWork, and I just miss all my coworkers because I work remotely. And I was like, well, maybe I should get to know my neighbors more. And there's so many people who filled out this form having no idea. Like, we tried to make it very approachable. And I can send it to you. It's I don't know, some of them have been taken down off of the lamppost, but I printed more. So, and I kind of sniffed my way to OPA because I saw a bumper sticker. That's how I personally learned about it, but I'm super passionate about connectedness. And those like impromptu gatherings that like, I come over, I have more soup, or I have extra cookies, so let me bring them to you. So anyways, that's what brought me here, and I'd love to get more involved, but again, I have my kind of my own angle of just, can I help bring it in a grassroots level?
Here are those numbers.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not saying it's because you are competing with all.
yeah.
No, I mean, are you going to actually work?
I'd love to. You were telling me you're short on money. I rented out the community space, at Johnson Park. I had people Venmo me. I actually made money off of it, but I covered the staple gun. Made so much money. I was like, there are so many people with the round coffee cost me $8. Like, I'm already a member, but, I'd be happy to pay more. And my idea is to collaborate, but to be honest, I don't really, 2 hours is a lot on a weeknight for me, my current student, so I wanted to spend my time doing it a little differently. I'm so about collaboration, that's why I wanted to.
I'd love to, first of all, I'd love the guerrilla marketing, sort of like putting stuff up, and a shame that we haven't been doing a better job of that. As many of you know, I talk about like, yeah, having 2,200 people on our newsletter is awesome, but there's 20,000 people in this neighborhood. So that means only 10% of the people know about us, and that's a problem. And that's something we need to fix. So
It's awesome, and I tell everybody about OPA to get involved. And I'd be happy to personally go to this conference.
And we'll grab coffee and chat about ideas. So thank you. Robbie.
I'm Robbie, for anybody that haven't met. I'm hoping to continue to dig into housing issues, challenges, and then kind of development in Santa Monica and in OPA. I think that'll probably be my focus this year. I'd love to try to kind of like make another bridge with the Main Street effort that we had. So need to figure out, maybe it's time to get coffee with Hunter again and figure that out. But those are two things that are on my radar, and if anybody has other ideas, I'd love to collaborate.
Thanks. Yep, we'll wrap this up quickly. Kelly, anything to?
Great to speak to you. That's what brought me here, was however long ago. Both residential and commercial, it seems crazy to me. It causes a million problems, and you need housing, doesn't make a lot of sense. And then community awareness too. Like I had a bunch of kids moving caught in my parking lot, they can go to the garden. And now I can give community service hours for Santa Monica High. So I feel like we should keep alive. It's a thing to get people helping each other.
Thank you. I know we got to get out of here pretty quickly, so I want to just finish up a couple of the required things. We need to approve the financials that Patty presented. Is there a nomination to do so? Jeff, is there a second? Robbie, all in favor? Board members only. Any opposed? Great. Okay, we have one. Okay.
Just because we didn't have enough time for them to go over.
Noted. That's fine. Let's move on. I believe Christina had quite a while ago sent out the November minutes. I know they're not fresh in people's minds, but is there a motion to accept them? I'm going to go with Tony this time. Is there a second? Patty, all in favor? Any opposition? Cool. Really quickly, is there anyone that just had anything random they wanted to bring up that wasn't on the agenda?
You want me to make a copy of
Yeah.
that?
And we can revisit it later if need, but we can send it out to the whole board. Cool. Dave, anything?
Yeah, I had a partnership with Officer a few years back, and I'm thinking about having like a Ocean Park surf offer, surf meet that both sponsors would, in partnership with the surf like rental cars.
Nice. Awesome. February meeting, we're returning back to the second Monday of the month. Thanks for changing it up this month. I believe we're having new council member Barry Snell attend, and Big Outdoor, which are the digital signs we're starting to see around town, coming to talk to us. Speaking of opportunities to try and promote OPA, trying to get signage on the big outdoor signs. What? Yes, and we want to be back at the library. Unless there's anything else from anyone, do we have a motion to adjourn? A second. Thank you, everyone. 1 second, let me shut this down.